Hey, welcome to Clarksville Vibe the Show. I am your host, Kevin Kennedy Jr., local pediatric dentist here in Clarksville, fifth generation Clarksville native, third generation small business owner here in town. Just telling the positive things that make Clarksville, Tennessee, what I believe is the best place to live in America. Money Magazine called it that a few years ago. And so when you ask people, what makes Clarksville special? Universally, the number one answer is always the people. So it's our job here on this show to bring you stories of the people who make this place the best place to live in America. I think we've got a great show planned for you today. Fantastic guest, going to bring a tremendous amount of value to the episode and is bringing a tremendous amount of value to our local community in lots of different ways, touching multiple generations, helping small businesses grow and thrive all over the community. He is John Crespo. I'm so happy to have him here. You have probably seen him on various platforms. He has his own podcast with Casey Bryant from local Clarksville. He's leading lots of different events. He's coaching small businesses. He's helping them get access to financing, lending services, all kinds of different things. We're super happy to have him here. Before I bring him on, if you can, go ahead, take that action, like, subscribe, hit any kind of comment or review. It really helps us spread the message of Clarksville that makes this the best place to live in America. So with all that, John, hey, thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow. It's hard to come in after that one. That's great. I'm excited to be here.
It's easy when it's all true. And so when you have to really pull things for somebody's introduction, that's when it gets difficult. When it's all true, it's natural. And I feel like we should tell people this is our first time meeting.
It is.
Yeah. So it's exciting. I think we're on episode 23, 24. I'm not really sure when this will release and what number it will be, but some of my most fun episodes are people that I've not met yet, we just kind of hear about each other. We're connected through through a unique acquaintance or something like that. But you've been running in your lane, doing lots of great things. Yes. I'm kind of running in my lane, and eventually we were going to intersect, and it just happened to be for this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fate's going to bring us together regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do want to just start off. We've got this amazing Pitchmasters event coming up. I saw the article in Clarksville Now. A great publication here in town that tells lots of great stories. I saw it on social media in one or two different places. And frankly, I didn't know what Pitchmasters was. So I reached out to you and I said, hey, we got to tell this story. We got to say, what is this about? How did it start? Yes. This is not your first event, but this is the first event that involves high school students. And I'm really passionate about education. I'm really passionate about helping the next generation.
Most definitely.
And so this just piqued my interest. And so I got to hear more about it.
For sure.
Tell us a little bit, right as we get into this episode, where did the idea of Pitchmasters come about? And how did you do your first couple of events? And then what made you kind of get into the high schools?
Sure. Great questions. And I'll start it off by saying, let's define what Pitchmasters is, right? A lot of people don't know, like we spoke about a little bit earlier in prep. A lot of people don't know what pitching is. What is pitching? When I first brought up Pitchmasters, people thought it had to do with baseball and throwing the baseball.
That's right.
And I think one of the videos that I put out in promotion to one of the events was that. It's that where we said, welcome to Pitchmasters, or we're looking forward to Pitchmasters. And I don't mean baseball. Right? It's actually an opportunity where it's businesses or entrepreneurs who have an idea or they have a product already in service can present that idea or that service or product to a panel of judges for an opportunity to win funding towards their business. No strings attached.
Yeah. And this process, if you're on the outside of this industry looking in, that was made famous by Shark Tank.
Yes, Shark Tank.
Right.
Yep.
And you have just kind of created Pitchmasters here locally.
Yes.
This is not your first go round. You said you've done it twice before.
Yes.
So tell me kind of what was the theme, or who did you attempt to attract to be involved in your first event?
Sure. Well, in my business, I do business lending, and I partnered with a company called Lendio for the ability to do that. And one of the recommendations that Lendio gave me was in a way to market what I do and really reach out to the small business community, to have these events where businesses can come in and pitch their idea to a panel and then provide resources, not necessarily funding, but resources, and an opportunity to get a business that maybe is not fundable at the moment to that point of being fundable, right? To fundability. So I was speaking with Guy Stanford. He's the other owner of Fat Shack here in town.
That's right.
And Guy and I, we go way back, and we were just going back and forth in conversation, and I was explaining to him about what I wanted to do, and Guy mentioned, hey, Fat Shack won a Shark Tank episode, which is why the chain is able to grow the way it's been growing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
So we sat there and we were thinking about it, and he mentioned, hey, we can get some Shark Tank personalities from the show.
From his connections.
Yes.
Wow.
And we can turn this into something major
Yeah.
that can really make an impact in our community. So I was all in. I was like, you know what? That's totally second level to what I was thinking, but something awesome, and let's do it.
Right. Creates a lot of energy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the first event, we held it at Austin P in the Dunn Center.
Oh, yeah.
And we actually had Shark Tank panelists, like from the
Legit
show.
Legit
ones.
Here in
Shark Tank
Clarksville,
companies.
Tennessee.
They came to Clarksville, Tennessee. We had people, actors here. We had a very diverse group of people that came in to support the event. Speakers that it was amazing. It was amazing. And we were able to, and what we decided was, let's make this event a major one that will really make an impact in the business life and make the first place prize $10,000.
Come on.
Yeah. So, what they say, go big or go home?
Yes, you went big.
We went big.
Let's go.
We went big.
Okay.
And so after that first event, obviously, whenever you have a first event, you take your learning,
sure,
your
learning lumps, your bruises,
yes, and
opportunities for improvement.
Exactly, and so we learned a lot from it. But we realized that this is something that's going to grow in our community, something that our community has been asking for, and something that we know can make a real impact in the community. So we said, let's continue to do these events. So we've been partnering together since the first one. We did the second one we did was more minority focused. We had a minority focused one where we were able to just touch the community that's kind of what's the popular word out there, disadvantaged or community, to get them together and give them an opportunity because there's entrepreneurial spirit there too. Yeah. So we just wanted to touch that as well, and that was our second event.
Sure.
It was another amazing event. We pared it down, just to build it, to keep building it. And then after that event, we said we have to reach our children.
That's awesome. Well, I'm curious, on the first one, do you remember the winning pitch? You remember?
Yes.
Okay.
So
what did that look like?
Actually, we had three winners because we had a $10,000 prize, a $2,500 prize, and a $1,500 prize. That was first, second, and third. All pretty good prizes.
Right, exactly.
And actually, the grand prize was a real estate company here in town, and they also do staging. Okay. And they have an internet presence with it. Yeah. So they combined it all under one kind of like major umbrella, and just her presentation was amazing. I wasn't a judge, so I'm not a judge in these things. Okay. We like to have an arm's length, separation because we don't want any conflict of interest. Sure. But her presentation won over the judges, so she won the $10,000 prize for that one. Wow. But the people that presented on the first event, we have some amazing ideas here in town. There was a video game. Someone created a video game that didn't need
software development.
Yep, but didn't need internet access for it. Okay. So really, you can it was just a standalone type of system that you can play video games on. We had a smart water bottle. This one is awesome. It's called Gideon Co. Okay. They've created this smart water bottle that tells you when it's time to release supplements into your water to make sure you're getting the right hydration. It tracks your hydration. This is our local community that's creating these things. So it was amazing. Fun.
And so you mentioned you felt like after those two events, it was time to reach the next generation. Yes. Because the ideas there are abundant and plenty. And so now you're working with high schools. Yes. So a little bit of a shift, right? Because now you've got to get access to who are the top minds, what are the programs in the schools. Yes. So how did you shift your focus, and what were some of your action steps that you took to try to recruit the best talent for this event that you're about to have that's focused on the high schoolers?
For sure. That's a great question. And, again, a testament to Guy again. Yeah. Guy he grew up in Clarksville. Yeah. Graduated, I think, early mid 2000s. So he still had relationships with some of the teachers, some of the who are now administrators. And I was also running for school board at the time. So I had exposure to
Okay.
the administrators as
Right.
well. So we got with the director of the school, of the school system, and we were able to present in front of all of the principals in the city.
Okay.
So we went to one of their meetings
All
and
the high schools. Yeah,
presented
wow.
the idea to them, and they just loved it. And we're on board. We were supposed to do this actually before summer break,
Okay.
but the timing was a little too tight, so we decided to wait until this school
Okay.
season. But we presented the idea to the principals. They were on board. We stayed in communication, and once school came back into session, we got together again just to solidify the ability to be able to do this with the schools and continue to get their buy-in. And and then they got on board, and here we are today, getting ready to have a competition with the high schools.
So details of the event. The date is
October 30th.
October 30th. We're going to release this a week or so before that.
Yeah.
So we've got a little time for this to spread around. It's located, where are you hosting it?
At the Marriott,
Okay, nice.
right on Wilma Rudolph.
Yep. And if they want to find more about it, where do they, obviously social media somehow, but what do they look for on social media?
Pitchmasters TN.
Pitchmasters TN.
We're on.
Okay, cool.
We are on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We actually have a website, pitchmasterstn.com.
Yeah.
All the information will be there. You can our ticket. The link to buy the tickets are there. All the information you have. Any upcoming events, we'll blast it out as well.
Very cool. And, you know, schools, the high schools here have such a unique opportunity to enrich and equip our high school students with the ability to make a difference in the world right away.
For sure.
And off the top of my head, Clarksville High School has a business academy. And so
Yes.
this sounds right up their alley. I'm sure they've probably been doing something like this in
Yes.
one or two of their classes in their business academy for a while. But you never want to undersell the next generation's ability to be creative and to see things
sure.
well before we see them, right? Because really everything that has been created that has value inherently of some kind
That's right.
is visionary. Before someone
So
else
true.
sees it, someone else comes up with it. And so I'm thrilled that our local high school students are getting the opportunity to be creative and pitch their ideas to some people who are knowledgeable about business, to receive feedback, both
Yes.
positive, constructive, however it may be. And I know that there's going to be some great things that come out of here. You know, I've got a friend that I graduated high school with. Little do most people know, but from Clarksville, Tennessee. And I don't know if he's still doing this or not, but he created a business. He was super into software development, but he was making pilot headgear, helmets, things
Wow.
like that for the Brazilian military from here. And his
That's awesome.
company was, in contract with the Brazilian national government. And we graduated at Rossview High School together, 2003.
I love
and
it.
so he's still just doing lots of amazing things. And so the talent is here. It's
100%.
Identifying and platforming the talent. And so much appreciation to you and Guy for having the ability to see, hey, there's talent here, both in businesses, in minority communities, in the broad community, in the younger,
Yes.
minority age community. I love it. And
Yeah.
Guy seems to be on the front edge of a lot of things, so
Yeah.
that's cool for him to
He's
be a part of it
he's
too.
got that young energy.
That's
He's
right.
got that young energy that he brings, which I totally love and appreciate. And I help small businesses every day here in Clarksville. It's my job, and I love it. And I get to see firsthand the entrepreneurial spirit that we have in this city. And I think that's one of the things that I love about Clarksville is we're a small town, right? We're a big town with a small town feel, but there's energy here that's just waiting to just explode. And I'll tell you what, one thing that got me really excited is when we were visiting, because once we got the school's buy-in, we started visiting each of the high schools and having meetings with the principals one-on-one, just to ensure that they were on board and we were going to be able to get some students to be represented at the event. And we got to meet some amazing teachers, because there's teachers that are doing these business programs, even though it's not the business academy, but they have business classes.
Yes.
And these teachers are so passionate about their children, and you can see it in the conversation. It just really made me feel really good about our school system.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've had kids matriculate all the way through. I went to public school here all the way, kindergarten through 12th grade. And I'm blown away at the professionalism and the high capability. Our kids in our public schools have every opportunity to do anything and everything they want to do in life. And we should be very grateful for the opportunities that every school does. We've got 30 something elementary schools, more than a dozen middle schools, 9 high schools, I believe it is. And every one of them has significant strengths and significant opportunities for any student who's in there to, be enriched and fulfilled and launched out into the world to either make a direct impact in our local community or whatever community they end up being a part of.
For sure.
Our teachers certainly do not get enough credit for the wisdom and the care and attention that they put into our kids on a regular basis. You mentioned this, and so I want to hear more about it. But you mentioned you're helping small businesses every day, right? And I think that's such a helpful thing, because as you look at small businesses, let's say my definition of that's probably less than 50 employees. I don't know what your definition
right
is.
There.
But there's so many challenges, and the leader of these businesses, I am one of them, tries to wear so many hats.
Yep.
You really can't be effective at them all. And I've had this conversation with others, but if you don't have the revenue to engage professionals, a professional in HR, a professional in payroll, a professional in accounting, a professional in marketing, all of a sudden now you're assuming all these, and you are having a hard time managing your team, leading your team. You're having a hard time keeping your books clean. You're having a hard time figuring out where's the biggest ROI in marketing coming from. And a coach is a really great resource for a lot of people. So I want to hear, what do you do regularly with businesses, and what are the types of businesses that you love to help most?
Yeah. So I'll give you a bit of my background. I've been in the financial industry for most of my career, in just my adult career, in banking. So I started off with JP Morgan Chase, then went over to Truist when I moved over out here, and then the
big boys.
The big guys, and then I took over the business department at Forterra Credit Union here in town. Okay. I was director of business development for Forterra for a couple years. And in that time, my roles were always to be engaging the small business community. Mm-hmm. So when it came to the banking world, it was about getting them access to bank accounts and lending opportunities, right, with the bank. And in that experience, in speaking with these small businesses, the majority of them did not qualify for a bank loan, right, because the bank's criteria is a little stringent, right? For a new business, especially, to be able to get funding from a bank. So I turned into, in my approach, had to become consultative.
Okay.
When speaking to the small businesses, it had to turn into, consultations where I would sit down and help them find ways to become fundable and implement some type of programs and ideas to become fundable down the road. And unfortunately, working for the banks, you don't have the time to be able to really nurture.
Yeah, because there's another file that needs to be underwritten.
Exactly.
There's another file that needs to be processed, right? And so as soon as you give 1 or 2 tips, the bank says, move on. We're paying you to, get these loans that we can fund, right?
Yes.
And so you don't have time to now continue on with this great relationship that you've established.
Exactly.
And help them try to get more reserves cash, or try to get more of a, develop their business plan or whatever that may be.
Exactly. And, so that brought an opportunity though. So I would start helping businesses on the side.
Yeah.
So I would start consulting businesses on the side, and I started building up a clientele. And it got to the point where I had to make that decision, and I think a lot of businesses start that way, right? Where you're kind of doing it on the side for a while, and you're working a full-time job at the same time. Yeah. And then there comes that point where you have to decide,
how much am I going to devote into this brand new thing?
Right.
Yeah. I had the same thing, when I first started my dental practice here in town. It was, 2018, 2019. And right when it, as it was in construction up until that point, I was driving to Brentwood 4.5 days a week to practice.
Wow.
Just for cash, for living expenses. Like I needed to be able to work, provide for my family. Then all of a sudden I opened my doors here, and I opened my doors knowing that I need to be in town here seeing patients probably 3 days a week, but there's still 2 days a week where I can work. So I'm driving to Brentwood back and forth on those 2 days. And that was a hard time, of giving everything I got on these 3 days, but then still trying to give my full energy to my employer who was paying me in Brentwood on the days that I was there and taking care of the patients that they put in front of me. And then you get to this point and it's stressful of like, how much do I believe this is going to work? Can I scale this back a day?
Yeah.
Can I commit to Clarksville full time yet? What does that look like? And really, I've heard from small businesses of any type, artisans, different craftsmen, different, any type of business. You get to that point where you realize, I feel like I'm almost there, but I'm scared.
Yeah.
There's the fear that kicks in.
That's right.
And so, I guess my question for you now is what type of business, and I know the question is probably all, but is there a type of business that you find a lot of passion in? Startups are fun, right? People like to, be a part of a startup. It's probably also fun to see someone who's a startup and has built a little bit of a team and then now needs to take that next step to either double revenue or in some cases 10x revenue and get them from, I've got a great product, I'm building some momentum and I've got an opportunity here and I can really explode this thing. But if I explode it, I don't know how to handle the demand.
What am I going to do now?
Right. So anyways, tell me, what do you enjoy doing? And it may be all of those things.
Right. It's a combination of all of it. I'll be honest. You mentioned earlier, the definition of the small business, and it's right there, 50 employees or less.
Okay.
Most of my businesses don't even have 10 employees, right? Most of them have about 10 or 12. The maximum probably has 12.
I don't have any here. I've pulled it all out and I've got like 13. So when you say 50, I'm like, goodness gracious. I don't know if I can do that.
It seems like a lot.
It seems like a lot.
But in the eyes of the business world, it's small. Yeah. And believe it or not, those businesses don't have the same access to the resources that the larger middle market or larger market businesses do. So my goal was to be that resource, to find the tools that these businesses need to be successful. And if I can't do it, to make sure I have the partnerships in place that can, So I wanted to build that one-stop shop for the small business community here where they can come to and they know that the consultations they're going to get are strategic and can help them. Their bookkeeping is taken care of, their payroll, their taxes, and their lending opportunity is taken care of. So it's all under one roof.
Yeah, I love it. And the name of this business specifically is your CFD Services, Inc.
Yes.
Okay. So that's an easy way to find you on that.
Yeah, CFD Services, Inc. I'm everywhere, all over social media, online. I'm all over the place.
Making it happen. Well, I want to get into your personal story a little bit. And so, I asked how you got to Clarksville, and it was a good story. So as most people, you've got some connection to the military, and then you spent some time away, and then you made a voluntary choice to return, which is not a common story because you're either a native like myself, you've just been here forever, you're going to stay here forever. You've got some people who came here with the military and stayed, but you don't have a lot of people who came here with the military, left, and then decided to come back. Yeah. So I'm curious, how did that story play out? What was it about Clarksville that you couldn't quite scratch the itch to put it in your past forever?
It's a great question. I'll tell you what, I was stationed here from 1997 to 1999. Clarksville was a different town back then. Yeah. A whole lot smaller than it is today. A lot more farmland. Yeah. I think 101st was a 2-lane highway, and it wasn't completed wasn't as long as it was today. Right. Tiny town, I think, was just like a carriage road. I don't know. It was so small. So it was a very different town. And when I got out of the Army in 1999, active duty, I went back home to New Jersey to do National Guard for a couple years. And New Jersey is where I'm from originally. Okay. Just to make the long story short, about 10 years ago, my wife's nephew moved out here. And when I heard that he was living in Clarksville, Tennessee, I'm like, what are you doing what are you doing in Clarksville, Tennessee? And I told my wife, that's where I was stationed when I was in the Army. I said, let's go visit. I want to take you to the base.
Yeah, that's right.
Know?
Just see you.
Yeah,
show you the update. Right.
Let's see what it's like. When we moved out, when we came out here, it was about 2016 or 2015 for the first time to visit, and obviously it was a totally different place.
Right.
And I instantly felt like there's something here that is brewing that I want to be a part of.
Wow.
I could seriously see the growth in front of my eyes whenever I would come. So I immediately wanted to move. My first visit, I was ready to leave New Jersey.
Done. I'm in.
I was ready. I was done with New Jersey. I was trying to get out of New Jersey anyway for a long time.
Fair enough.
But it took my wife about total 4 visits before she was able to get on board. Yeah. And then she gave me the okay. She said, if you find a job out there, I'll move. So I said, okay. I started looking and I got a job. I said, I wasn't playing. I got a job so fast.
That's like the Californians who are moving right now. Yeah. I've talked to a couple of them, hiring or just somehow getting connected through personal connections. They're like, I'm just really hoping that I could find a job. I'm like, what do you do? One guy was a civil engineer. I was like, right. I can get you a job tomorrow.
For real.
Things are blowing up here so fast that every industry needs good people. Yeah. And if you're coming with great skills, you're an easy person to get along with, and you've got great experience, employment opportunities are not lacking.
That's true. It's so true. And now it's just accelerated.
Right.
And thankfully I came here before the explosion happened. I got here right before the explosion happened, so I was able to get a good deal on a house.
That's right. Yeah, you locked in.
Yes, I locked in. I'm good.
I love that. Yeah, it's funny because you never know. Like you feel like you're just buying a house and like, oh, this is a big decision. Like, oh man, I bought mine like 8 years ago or so, and looking back at it, that might have been the best decision I've ever made. Now, part of it is geography and part of it was timing and all of that. Not to my wisdom or my credit at all. I'm not taking that, but you just, look at Clarksville over those last 7-8 years.
Yeah.
Wow. And, I'm sure people who bought 15 years ago feel even more way than I do. One thing that we get into sometimes, especially a guy like you with your skills, is where do you fill up, right? So one of our earlier guests that we had on, Sylvester Jenkins, he said,
I love Sylvester.
What you tune into, you turn into, right? And so in that principle, a lot of what we put into ourselves comes out in our skills, what we believe, what gets us excited, what creates passion in us. And you create, like you shared with me, something, I don't know if you created it or not, but it's an acronym that you said you live by, PDCA. Yep. So I want to hear more about that and where'd that come from?
Yeah, I love podcasts.
Okay.
And I'm a very big personal development guy when it comes to podcasts. I love business podcasts. I read business books, Jim Collins, just to name one.
Yeah.
He wrote Built to Last as one of my favorite books is that one. But it wasn't Jim Collins that made that acronym, and I didn't come up with that acronym either. And I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but the acronym stuck. And
which is most great content.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's fun about being a business coach is somebody may not be able to attribute. Oh, John Crespo said this one time 4 years ago on a podcast that I randomly listened to, but the principles will stick. Right. And when you're putting out positive energy and you're just trying to help people, like your influence can ripple effect and multiply.
Yes.
Because it's so powerful. I just mentioned Sylvester's quote. I'd never heard that before. What you tune into, you turn into.
Yep.
And I've just been digesting that and thinking, all right, how do I create more opportunity for me to tune into things that will hopefully make me turn into what I really wanted to be and do. But PDCA, so tell me what it means and how are you using it regularly?
Yeah, for sure. So PDCA is all about execution, right? So the acronym is Plan, Do, Check, Adjust.
Love it.
Right? So
sounds like pre-snap audibles on the football field.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Call in the play, check the defense, maybe
audible.
Adjust, audible. Yeah, It is what it is.
That's it. So in everything, especially in business and honestly in personal life as well, it's all about making sure that you've planned properly before taking that step. But not only just the planning, because a lot of people get stuck on the planning, analysis paralysis, right? They're oh my God, it's not going to work. It's not going to do it, whatever. But once you create that plan, once you have that plan once you have that plan in place, you have to do it. Mm-hmm. You have to execute that plan and give it an opportunity to succeed or fail.
Right.
right? Because then you can learn from that, make the proper adjustments, right? Check that you're doing it well, make the proper adjustments, and then start all over again.
Right.
So it's really, it's just a cycle. You know, you plan it, you do it, you check it, make the proper adjustments, and then keep going, because you have to constantly recalibrate and keep moving if you're going to be successful.
I love that you say when you do it, you give it the opportunity to be a success or a fail, right? And then you check it and adjust it. That's very profound. I'm in a group of startup dentists across America. It's funny how everyone, connects on social media. It's not so much just who you know anymore. It's what are you about? What are you passionate about? What are you doing day to day? And they ask this question, hey, I just really messed up. Paralysis by analysis. I let this lease space go by. Yeah. Great visibility, great traffic, great nearby tenants, and I didn't pull the trigger fast enough. And another dentist came in and got it. And this person was just devastated, right? And posting it on this group, what do I do? I'm struggling with paralysis analysis. And everyone was just like, you move on to the next decision and you learn from this that critical decisions that you feel pretty good about, you just better move forward. You better make that decision with about 70% of the information, because if you wait till 90%, it might pass you by.
Exactly.
Well, that's cool that you got an acronym for it. I'm pretty sure that's going to stick in my head and be a part of it. Another thing I was excited to talk to you about, you talked about how small businesses are just, really the backbone of a local community, and they are to a large degree. But you also mentioned how important nonprofits are.
Yes.
And so I want to hear you flesh that out, because obviously with your world and experience in big boy banks, in our local credit unions, and then now I'm sure coaching mostly for-profit small businesses, where does the value in nonprofits come from? It's something that I'm extremely passionate about. I think we've got great ones here. I think we've got great leaders of nonprofits here. But how does a nonprofit add value to the overall kind of economic development of a town?
For sure. I like to equate a nonprofit as the connector between government and private in connecting with the community.
That's a strong point.
Right?
That's a strong point.
So the government allocates funds, but nobody knows about those funds, and nobody knows how to access those funds or what have you for the purpose of what they're allocated for. Nonprofits step in and they are able to navigate those waters, right, and reach the people that are meant to be reached with those funds, or donors, or however they generate the funds. It's meant for a particular. It's meant for the people. It's meant for the community, to uplift the community, and so nonprofits are that's where they live, and it's our job to support that. I'm part of a couple nonprofits here in Clarksville. One in particular that's near and dear to my heart is called Recover Our Sons. Okay. What we do is we mentor young men in our community that wouldn't necessarily have access to be able to leave their environment and get exposure to other things in life, like entrepreneurship training, vocational training, agriculture. We take them to the city hall to meet the mayor and get it like civic duty training. We teach them self-esteem. And so our focus is the young men in our community that don't have that kind of mentorship in their life. We're the mentors for them. We meet every other Saturday, and we take these young men. This coming Saturday, we're doing a construction class where they're going to build a sign for the front of my office, as a matter of fact. They're going to build my sign. But we go and visit. And so these nonprofits like that, it's building up the next generation. So without nonprofits, you're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to touch everybody. Right. That's where they come in.
Yeah, I love that. We got some great ones. Sounds like the one that you're heavily involved in is great. I love the idea of the construction sign too, because some people are just so skilled with their hands, and they don't know it because they've never been given the opportunity to just build something and have that feeling of like, wow, I walked in here and there were planks of wood, a bucket of paint, a toothbrush, or paintbrush. Toothbrush. You see what I do every day? It just rolled right off the tongue. Don't paint with a toothbrush. Paintbrush, and then you create the sign. Yeah. And like how incredible that is to give someone this self-esteem bump. That, man, I did that. And it was cool. It wasn't easy. It's the first time I'm doing it, but it was cool, and I like that, and I might be able to pursue that passion a little bit more.
Fun story is one of our mentors owns a welding shop, so he does fabricating, And we had a session at his shop where he taught the kids how to weld, just
Yeah,
the basic welding
right.
class. And one of the kids loved it so much that they stayed after, because he said, if you're interested,
Sure.
stay after, I'll teach you some more. And he started going back, so getting some apprenticeship work. So he found something that he liked to do out of that.
Wow.
And then, who knows, now we're going to have another amazing welder in town, which we need.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's little things like that.
That's very, very cool. I love that. Well, one big message, you wrote this down, and I'm going to let you flesh it out. An idea not implemented is just a dream.
Yeah.
Which I feel like, I've told people, it's like, this podcast is an idea of mine for a long time, and I didn't
Right.
want to do it. Nobody's going to listen, all those negative things that you tell yourself. And then finally I just got to that point listening to a podcast. I was like, you squashing these things in your soul that won't go away
Exactly.
is not helping you. It's not helping your community. So here we are,
Yeah.
25 or so episodes in. I don't know how many people are listening. I choose not to look at it too much, but I get a lot of people stop us and say that we're adding value. So when you said that, an idea not implemented is just a dream, I was like, man, I actually resonate with that, because it is so easy to wake up with an idea
So true.
and talk yourself out of it.
Yeah. I truly believe that God puts in us the fire to bring out the best, right? So there's always something. You're always going to feel like you have something to offer, right? Some people don't find it or haven't listened to their voice inside on what it is that they're meant to do. But they, believe it or not, it'll come to them, whether it's through a dream or whether it's through just writing something down or drawing or listening to something. All of a sudden, it's triggering that idea that they were meant to share.
Right.
But if you never act on that, then it goes away.
Yeah.
Right. And it just becomes a dream. You don't remember that. So you can lose it.
Yeah.
So,
you've missed your potential, and you've withheld benefit from your community, or the people that you could influence.
Yeah.
And so in a little way, it's kind of selfish to squash it.
For sure.
Because really dynamic, powerful ideas ultimately have an undercurrent of we're wanting to bless other people. Whether it's a new idea, a new product, a new service, whatever it is, you're adding value to someone else's life. And when we're squashing it because we're too afraid to take the chance, you're not only squashing your dream, you're squashing the ability to be able to bless people. And who cares if you fall on your face?
Exactly.
Everybody who's tried something new, we don't look at you and think, oh gosh, I can't believe he tried that. We're like, good for you for trying.
Right.
Let's get back up and try again.
The most successful people have fallen on their face thousands of times,
yes.
And it's that one time.
The courage to continue.
Yes. It's that one time that brought them to the next level.
Yeah. Love it. Well, hey, we're going to transition to the lightning round. Just some fun questions at the very end. So feel free to just run through them. I didn't prepare you for any of this, but 20 years ago, I didn't know this would be so hard. What would you say to that? 20 years ago, I didn't know this would be so hard.
Raising children.
Yeah. It comes with lots of challenges.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's true.
And I have 5 of them. So,
so you got lots I've got 5 too. So,
awesome.
Yeah. So, and I would say that's right up there too. I tell people jokingly sometimes, you think you're going to be a great parent until you become one.
Right.
You realize I'm not too good at this.
Yeah. Then you're always like, oh my God, I'm the worst parent in the world. My kids are going to hate me when they get older.
Yeah. And you just hope it comes out positive in the end. What do you think is the biggest piece of education that small business owners are missing?
Wow. The foundational part of running a business. A lot of businesses, they'll watch a couple YouTube videos and think, all right, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more involved in building a solid foundation for your business, for longevity purposes.
Right.
So I would definitely say the foundational part of running a business.
Yeah. And obviously it would be good to connect with you on that. Random fun one. One item that you've learned is worth spending the extra money on.
Something that you love.
Right.
Yep. Take that trip.
Something that brings you joy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you like the outdoors, take that trip.
Yeah.
Take
Not
that trip.
promised tomorrow.
That's right.
Yeah. So go ahead and make plans to do it. I love it. John Crespo, CFD Services Inc., business coach. entrepreneurial support, all these things that add up to it. You've got Pitchmasters with Guy Stanford coming up really soon. If you've caught this episode right when it releases, his event is coming up. So make sure you connect with that on social media. And if you're catching this, 6 months from when we record this or 2 years from when we record it, I bet there's probably some more Pitchmasters going on still at that point. So make sure you see it.
That's
hey,
right.
If you have made it to the end of this episode, thank you so much. I know that you found a ton of value. I know that you've probably got some ideas that you need to put forth into this community and bless the people around you, and allow yourself to see that, you do have the skills, you do have the grit, you do have the determination, you can do it, you can put it out there. And if you need some help, go ahead and just contact John. Let him give you some of those basics that he was talking to you about, just to make sure that you can have the full blessing, produce the most fruit, produce the most positive energy to keep making Clarksville the best place to live in America. This is Clarksville Vibe the Show. I am your host, Kevin Kennedy. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this episode, and we will catch you on the next one.